there were so many just amazing educators that are, trying to go and be there for their kids through this time.
Bright and early together again. How are you? Like, are you like just waking up? Were you productive this morning? Where are you at?
I was productive this morning. I've been up since about 4:30. I work out every morning, and I'm trying to not let myself get too off schedule. I need to keep some sort of routine. So I got up and worked out.
I applaud you. I think that's fabulous. I'm so happy that you got up at 4:30 and worked out for the both of us. That is so generous. You're the sweetest person.
Ugh. I'll do that every day for us.
That's commitment.
Don't worry, I got you.
What type of workout are you doing?
Well, actually, yesterday I finished one of my programs. So today I went back to like the first program that I did because I work out at home because I'm not somebody that can go to the gym. I can't, although I can get up and go to my living room, I really struggle to like get up and leave the house that early.
But I think gyms are closed right now anyway, so you're in the clear.
That's true. So I'm doing really well. So today was cardio. So I was exhausted. It was a tiring one. Yeah, I was up and moving. It really woke me up.
I got dressed this morning. Like, it's almost the same. I'm just saying. Almost.
It can be.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I do want to hear more about your morning because it sounds like you were very active. But really quick, if you are just joining us live, good morning. We are so happy to see you. We are streaming through Be Live service, which you can usually tell because we have this like border around us. It's the service that we stream through to make sure that we can have more than one guest with us. So if you are commenting, good morning. We are so appreciative. Make sure to introduce yourselves to each other, but also put your name at the end of your comment so we can see who's interacting with us. I will also pull this up on my phone just in case you forget because we do want to hear from you. But good morning, good morning. To recap, if you've already missed the first 30 seconds of this, Megan has had a full day already, and Ray just rolled out of bed and will probably be snuggling with her dogs in about an hour. So
I will be the same with my dogs. So.
Oh my goodness. I know we're both dog owners. It's kind of fun if you're going to be in a tough situation like this for our daily drop-in. At least we can say we're with animals that are really sweet in our house.
Oh, absolutely. The minute I think my dogs are like loving this. They think that this is just the greatest gift for them, that I am home and I'm simply home here to snuggle them all day.
Hey, there has to be a silver lining for all these things. And I think that some of us, at least at this point, can enjoy a silver lining of we get some good family time, we get some good couch time, and apparently you are on a rigorous workout schedule, which is very impressive.
I got to keep up with Mo every day.
It's true. I see that Chad jumped in here. I know there's a lot of comments so far. I want to say good morning to everybody. I'm so glad everyone's here. But Chad is like working out like crazy still. And ever since I've known Chad, who designed the grid method, for those of you that don't like actually know him, he is a workaholic when it comes to like working out. And I just think it's so nice that he gives me like a mile every so often to be like, good job, Ray, you worked out today.
That's I've actually tried. I actually told Chad, I think, and Jeff, that I totally wanted to start running. I tried running not that long ago before I was working out daily. And it didn't go so well. I was not much of a fan of it. So I said, I'm going to try it again. And so, except for the weather hasn't really been that great. And it's supposed to rain pretty much all week here. So,
okay. I would totally like go with you on that one. But Megan, we live in the same state. It was like 50 degrees yesterday.
Yes, I did get out yesterday, but I took the dogs for a walk. And my pups are adorable. They are not about the running. Like the minute we would start jogging, they'd be like, no.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do like Amanda posted in here. Sorry, I haven't pulled this up on my phone yet. But Amanda posted that her dog won't leave her side. That's what Megan and I were talking about before we came live for our daily drop-in, was like, our dogs just being attached. I just want all of you to know that before we came on camera, I had both dogs in my chair, and Megan had to watch me trick them off of this chair. So
It was adorable.
it was something. Let's go with something. Well, as we're jumping in, I love that everybody is commenting. There's so many. Oh my God, we have an 11-week-old puppy that's now doing. I love all these comments from Candace. I just want to tell everybody that we are here for our third day of our Teach Better Team daily drop-in, which was honestly created to try and support the fact that educators around the country, around the world, are struggling with the ever-changing coronavirus pandemic. And because every district is doing something a little bit differently, every educator has different requirements, all students are getting different messages, we do want to make sure that while we are pushing out blogs that are supportive, our podcasts have shifted to make sure they're supported. We are changing Mastery Chat topics to make sure teachers are supported. We published a new online course to make sure teachers are supported. We also thought, hey, what if we came live to just kind of like talk shop with educators who had questions and make sure everybody feels good? So I think this has been kind of fun. And Megan, this is your first time joining us, right?
Yes, this is my first time joining the Daily Drop-In.
I know. How did you feel about kind of hearing the idea of the Daily Drop-In? Did you think that this was going to be a good option for educators? Were you not excited about getting up in the morning when you didn't have to?
No, I absolutely love it. I was actually thinking too, part of why I love it, I know for me, like when I have a day off or I have weekends, you know, I've said that I get up and I work out every morning and I keep it at a strict time, but I notice that when we have a day off or weekends, I tend to push that time a little. I'm like, well, do I really have anything to do? Like I can wait a little longer. This is really nice because I feel like it's also pushed me to be like, I want to be a part of these. I want to watch them. So I want to make sure that I'm up and ready to go at 7. So I think it's a great way to keep a schedule, but it's also a great way to start your day. Yesterday I was watching and there were so many comments and so much just positivity and support. It was incredible. So it was an awesome way to be like, all right, like I'm ready to start my day. It may be a totally crazy time, but with all this support and all the ideas that were flowing, I was like, great, like this is going to be an awesome day.
Well, yeah, and our hope, sorry, I'm trying to get this set up. Our hope is that it can provide, I like how you said that, like some consistency, right? So we're all kind of dabbling with different instances. We're all either taking care of children in the morning or trying to do distance or e-learning, or we're trying to stay up to date on the news. I know every morning the past few days, I've just been waking up and the first thing I do is go read the news because it seems like things are changing so quickly. And so our hope is that this does provide not only educator support, but also I like the idea that this provides some consistency. You know, every single morning we're going to be here, possibly talking about our dogs, but hopefully talking about education, going through some tips or tricks. And as information comes up, I mean, we're going to be here live every morning until it doesn't maybe make sense for us to. So we'll always be here to kind of provide some ideas, some discussion, and like kind of to wake everybody up in the morning, get their brain thinking.
Absolutely.
And that's cool.
I shout out Patricia, who said she's a new member, so I'm glad that she joined, and I hope you get some value out of this. And yesterday, a cool comment, somebody, I can't remember who said it, but yesterday somebody said this is like the greatest like teacher lounge like conversation, which I thought was really cool. It's, you know, we're aside, you know, we're outside of the building. We don't have, maybe if you do have that positive environment within your building, you don't have that every day. So this is kind of, I feel, an awesome place to come and still have that feeling every day.
Absolutely. I really love that perspective. I think I missed that comment yesterday. I was so busy reading comments yesterday on our Tuesday daily drop-in because I'm not kidding that I was going through and there was like 100 comments I hadn't yet gotten to, and it was like so stressful.
It was flowing. It was going like crazy.
I know, but at least with us both here live, then we can have discussion. We can pay attention to comments. We can drink coffee. It's way easier.
I'm here to help. Which Randy actually said,
go ahead.
Randy actually said her almost 3-year-old is not so thrilled that we have time to potty train. I will say, I do not have any kids. My dogs are my kids, so I give you all the props, Randy, and good luck with that.
Yes, we love Randy. I got to meet Randy at the Teach Better conference last year, 2019. And she is, Randy, if I had to pick a cool mom, you'd be a cool mom. Like, I think it's so great. Your kids are going to love being home with you. Hopefully get some good like family bonding time. That's so exciting. And potty training is a big deal. So power to you.
Absolutely.
So I am going to remind everybody, because we're kind of all popping in, that this morning for our daily drop-in, we are happy to answer questions. We want to be here to support you. And we are streaming through Be Live, which you can kind of see when we have this border. So we can't always see your comments if you're not putting your name at the end. So I do have my like phone kind of off to the corner that I can see some of these pieces. But if you want to specifically to discuss a question, it's always really nice to know who posted. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your name at the end of the comment, that would just be awesome. But I am seeing some comments already, Megan. Today is my first day with distance teaching, which it looks like was posted by Tammy. So I know a lot of our group members are kind of in two separate stages. Either their district is talking about e-learning but hasn't yet implemented it yet, or they don't quite know what they're doing with that yet. And then other districts are actually in the implementation process where they are doing some sort of distance or virtual learning with their students. Before we get into what tips we have or answering questions as people start to post them, Megan, would you mind giving our listeners a lens of like, what's your role in education? What's your district currently in the moment as an educator?
Absolutely. So I currently teach 7th grade math, and currently my district is, I feel like we're kind of in limbo right now. We have this week off, and next week would be our spring break. So we are not doing any sort of e-learning or distance learning. And we really don't have much more information than that. We, of course, are planning, I guess, to be back March 31st, but I don't know that that's going to happen. So I think we're going to be getting more information in the coming days. We didn't really find out that we were out until Friday at 1:30, and the kids were done at 2:45. So it was a very, very kind of crazy last hour and a half. And it was very crazy for us as teachers, because leaving on Friday, we really didn't know what to expect other than we aren't at work for 2 weeks. So yeah, it's definitely feeling like we're kind of in limbo, just waiting for more information.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of teachers are feeling that way. I'm seeing Beth Manning, Jeff Kaplan, they're kind of posting, oh, looks like Adam, they're kind of posting like, oh, we started e-learning. So they're a few days in, which is great to see that there are teachers that right now are finding solutions to, interacting with their students. A lot of them, some of these comments are saying, it's going okay, I'm feeling okay. And I think that that's kind of a reality to where teachers are right now. If you're in a distance learning setting, you're able to ask questions, you're able to problem solve, like every teacher is so successful in doing, because we do it every day in the classroom. But a lot of teachers are feeling the stress and anxiety because they don't quite have the answers yet. Similar to your district, they're still kind of in limbo figuring things out. And who knows, in 2 weeks, our environment might feel different in terms of the questions that we have answers to for how we can support our students. So I think that's important that we acknowledge the different types of teachers and the situations that they're in right now.
Absolutely. I told you earlier, it actually kind of like made me feel a little bit better yesterday being a part of the chat and seeing that there were a lot of other districts that kind of were in that limbo too, because I felt like I wasn't the only one in that position of kind of not really knowing what was going on. And I saw a lot of teachers, which I think is awesome, who weren't necessarily starting the e-learning or distance learning as a district, but we're still connecting with our students, and we're still, trying to provide them, maybe not necessarily instruction, but provide them something, some sort of support. So I thought that was it. There were so many just amazing educators that are, trying to go and be there for their kids through this time.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more comments about that now. I know that Tammy and Dave Schmidt's in here. Oh, it's so fun to see like when all your friends come together. It's like, oh, it's so fun. Amanda's in here, Alexandra's in here. They're kind of all posting that they're in different phases, but they have all kind of found like a safe spot to be right now. So whether they're, they have 3 weeks off, but they think in the future they might start looking into distance learning. So they're kind of wrapping their mind around it right this moment. Or they're not quite there, but it's nice to kind of get some information in a live video to hear the discussion. Or they're currently implementing and they're saying, hey, I'm trying out tech tools. These are working and these are not. And I think that kind of gives us an opportunity that within the next few weeks, within the next few months, we're actually going to have such a strong collection of experts in this group, because teachers all over the country are trying different things, and we're going to be able to share that insight. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I think so many teachers are trying so many more things now that we're in a position where it is really distance, and what can we do to support the kids, and it's kind of anything and everything that would work. And it's almost, that's why I think one of the positives is I'm like, all right, let's try this, let's try this. There are so many maybe barriers that have been taken down, and so now it's kind of, try anything, see what works, see what doesn't work. And I totally agree. I think we're going to have a lot of experts in different areas, which just makes this group even more amazing than it already was.
So it's interesting, Megan. I am hearing a lot of different things from teachers, and I want to make sure that everybody who's watching right now kind of knows what the team's involved in, depending on where you're at in your classroom. So I know if you have been a part of our daily drop-in before, you've probably heard this, but the team really has tried to support all these educators in all these different situations. So I know Megan is an active blogger at teachbetter.com. There are so many blogs that are being published. We're publishing at least one a day to ensure that there are teachers who can kind of dabble with this idea of distance learning, e-learning, all this fun stuff. I'm going to give a shout out to Dave Schmitto because he's texting me while I'm live and he's saying that we're doing well. So yes. In addition to the blogs, we're putting all of our daily drop-ins as full episodes on Teach Better Talk podcast. So if you're listening to this right now after our recording as a bonus episode for Teach Better Talk podcast, we really appreciate that you're here. And if you want to participate in our live discussion rather than just listening after the fact, you can join our private Facebook group, which is where all of our professional learning is happening right now. You can do that by simply going to teachbettergroup.com or just simply searching Teach Better Team in Facebook and just joining our private group. If you're an educator, you're invited. So it's a great spot to kind of be a part of this active conversation and have these discussions as we continue to move forward with our plan. Additionally, obviously, we have Mastery Chat every single week on Thursdays. So if you're looking for something to do on Thursday afternoon at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to start having these deeper dives into some of these ideas. I know this week specifically, but we have an administrator that's hosting that's going to allow us to kind of see that administrative lens in the discussions that are going on across the country. And then Megan, I know that actually I'd love your opinion on this. We just published a brand new course at Teach Better Academy that's dedicated to a virtual classroom. So if you're an educator that's going through this pandemic, or if you're somebody, months and months later who just wants to look at hosting a virtual classroom, it's full of tools for you to explore. And I think that kind of fits into what you were saying, where whether you're a teacher who's currently implementing or you're kind of chewing on the idea because you think in the future you might be implementing a distance learning classroom, do you think this course is worth exploring?
Oh, absolutely. I think even for myself, I mean, I run the grid in my classroom, so I feel a little bit more at ease with the distance learning just because my students know what is expected of them in the unit. And I do record videos for them for every lesson. So I think like that piece is in place. But overall, I've never done distance learning completely and been out of my classroom and been teaching my kids not with them for such a length of time. So we think that virtual classroom class is just, it's so helpful. And there were so many ideas and small tips and tech tools that I don't use. And now it's like, okay, well, I have the time to try that. I know Tammy had mentioned that she uses Screencastify to record lessons, which is what I use. And they were using Zoom as a virtual meeting. I just signed up for Zoom, and I'm hoping to be able to use that with my students and kind of learn more about that and use that, if I can, to connect with as many of my students as I can. So I think it just opens so many doors, and it's helpful in a time where there's a lot of teachers that really aren't sure where to go with this at times.
Well, and I think that was brought up yesterday, and I know that you and I had this discussion, not live with everybody, but you and I separately, we connected yesterday in a Google meeting, simply because there are so many resources right now that are free. It seems like every educational tech company is giving their things away for free. And while we should have a discussion on equity at some point in relation to this, the reality is that as a teacher, as an educator, you have access to tools that you may not have had access to before. And additionally, now you don't have to pay for them. So this is a really good opportunity to try out a tool that you may not, dedicate your whole life to using forever, but try something out and see if it would be beneficial to, utilizing in your classroom at any time to just kind of play and dabble with. And that kind of goes into what we were saying yesterday during our daily drop-in when I was live in our private group, just kind of talking about that after all of this, whether it be in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, next semester, after all of this, when we get back to our classrooms, will we be better? Will we be stronger educators? Will we have taken care of ourselves to rejuvenate? Will we be a better educator to see the lens in which our students are coming into our classrooms with? And if the answer is yes, then wonderful. And that can be done by taking this time to read a book, exploring a tech tool, taking an online course to just ensure that we are, trying to offer better support for our students whenever we get to interact with them in our future.
Absolutely. I think there's no doubt that no matter what you're doing as an educator, when we get back from this, we're going to be better because we have, in some capacity, whichever route you take, whether you're doing multiple things like you said, reading a book, trying new things, you're doing something that's going to improve how you are as an educator. And I think just being able to tackle this with, I think, the grace that we've seen from a lot of educators, that already is making you a better educator. You're taking on a huge challenge that for a lot of people, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but came very quickly, with very little warning and very little knowledge. So I think that the way that so many educators are handling that, you're becoming better every day.
Megan, we're getting some good comments. So I do want to not only comment on these questions, but also kind of get you some answers. Patricia just asked about where the course that we were referring to is offered. So everything we've talked about today in terms of the support the Teach Better team can provide, you can kind of access everything, and your starting point can be just teachbetter.com. You can access the blogs, the free downloads, the podcasts. All of that's really accessible at teachbetter.com. You can also get access to the Teach Better Academy if you go to teachbetter.com. The Teach Better Academy direct link is teachbetteracademy.com. But you'll see that our Academy login is right on that front page. So that can get you direct access to not only the virtual support course that we just published, I think Monday afternoon, but it also gets you access to all the other courses that we have there. We have like 18 plus courses for educators to explore at Teach Better Academy, and we publish a new one about every 30 to 40 days. So if you're a Teach Better Academy member, you already know this and you get all the courses for free. If not, there are a ton of free courses and a ton of full workshop courses there as well that you can decide to dabble with. I know Megan and I always talk about how the membership is by far the way to go. Do not pay for courses. But the free courses are obviously good things to go to as well. So that's important. Outside of that, you can also access everything else from our academy, like our conference link is at teachbetter.com and kind of everything like that. Books are there, all that stuff. So you'll be able to kind of go to teachbetter.com as your hub. The other things that I'm seeing commented, Randy had some good questions that I did want to find. Did you read it or do I need to find it?
So Randy's one says, is there such a thing as too much work for students right now? Some kids have finished most of my work and some haven't started. Do I put more work out there? Which I think it's a really great question. And I think it kind of depends on who you ask. I think in my classroom, because I run the grid, I post my whole grid at one time. And I have the students that just love math and love to work through it quickly, and they go home and they do things. So I wouldn't necessarily be posting more work, but what I think that like my focus is going to be this week, or for how we're in this situation, is really making sure that for me, my level 5, which is my enrichment to my grid, is really solid and really something that they can, a really great learning experience. And I think that now more than ever, as I think about my level 5, it kind of opens a lot of doors, and you could really come up with some cool enrichments to your grid based on the fact that, you know, they're at home. I think that's a perfect time to involve more people in their learning. So I don't know that I would go with posting more work, but I think that it depends on what work you have and how you're structuring that.
No, I completely agree. You know, there's not a lot of research yet. There is some, but there's not a lot of research yet in how e-learning, distance learning is actually going to be implemented and how it's most successful for students. So while there are bits and pieces out there, it seems like most districts that I've been communicating with over the past year or so, as people have been dabbling with this, especially in the Midwest, is saying that you want your teachers to being provided information on how long they should have engagement for students. So a lot of districts, the engagement requirement of the teacher is somewhere between 15 minutes and 45 minutes, which I know is like massively vague. Which is why I really like what Megan, you were saying, is if you offer a grid, then you're able to kind of give access to students exploring new content. But the other thing that we talked about yesterday, which I think is important to bring up again, is there are learning supports that we can offer students that don't have to be graded and that can be exploratory, that don't necessarily have to be you as the teacher feeling like you need to deliver work. There are a lot of things right now that you can be encouraging students to do that may or may not have anything to do with your classes, but allow students to get social and emotional support, allow students to be able to collaborate with others, interact with others virtually, because hello, if we're all going to be in this kind of isolated state, how can we encourage the perks that we actually said this video provided for us to kind of all come together and talk? There's a lot of, I'm going to find it, my really good friend Katie Migland came up with a support for middle school, but I've been seeing this everywhere shared on Facebook of activities children, adolescents, or, you know, our older students in higher ed can actually be doing to stay engaged with their, you know, nature and journaling. There's so many things they could be doing that isn't necessarily them learning more content, but maybe exploring other reflection opportunities that they can do to keep their brain active. That's the point, right? Trying to keep their brain active and thinking throughout this time and not just sitting. You know, like, how can we keep them active learners, even though we as teachers may not be providing strategic learning opportunities at every moment of their day? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely does. I think that's so important to keep that aspect in mind. And then another comment that kind of made me connect and think of something else that I will probably be doing with my students.
Are you talking about Lisa's comment?
I wasn't, but I had.
Oh. No, then go ahead. I'm grabbed my phone because I didn't want to forget to not address Lisa's comment. So you go first.
So Tammy made a comment about how she had a student submit some work and she was having difficulty with it. And she was able to kind of make a screencastify video just for that response. And I think, you know, I have so many students, and we've had our students, you know, since most of us have had our students since August. Well, I know in my classroom which students there are that love to like help my other students. And so I think one of the things that I'm going to try to do to promote also that social engagement between them is reach out to some of those students that are maybe working ahead and getting more work done. And when another student asks a question, they can kind of take the lead on that. If whether it's, I saw Joe said he just signed up for Flipgrid. I've been using Flipgrid now, so whether it's Flipgrid or, you know, you come up with another, Seesaw would be another one. You know, I think there are those tools out there where you can almost utilize, if the student is comfortable, some student-to-student explanation, because I think that that is another piece that our students are missing, is that daily social interaction with each other.
And that's how your classroom is structured when you're in session. So trying to find those best practice techniques that we know are data supported for learning and implement them in a virtual setting is actually, I think, the biggest focus of the team right now. It's not just about supporting our network and staying positive and seeing the silver lining, trying to provide you with tools. But when we get through the initial shock of what's going on, we cannot lose all this work that we've been doing as educators to provide a progressive classroom that supports students taking ownership over their learning, collaborative, being leaders. So we need to find the right solutions to making that happen in a virtual setting. So Megan, you hit the nail on the head of don't lose all the student leadership that you've been building. Let's find a resource, a tech tool, some sort of site like Flipgrid to ensure that students can ask questions and get support from their peers. Because just because we're virtual doesn't mean that you need to go back and regress to this traditional mindset that you are the only one that can support student growth, right?
Absolutely. It's not, I feel like I've never just been the only teacher in my classroom, and I don't want them to lose that. It's not only I'm here for them, we're all in this together and we're all here for each other just for every other day of the week when we're in the classroom. And so it's just kind of finding ways to promote that and make sure that that stays in place. And one thing I've noticed, because I was a little worried, I don't use Google Classroom as much. I kind of really rely on my grid. I was a little worried with kind of when I posted a Flipgrid as a check-in, like getting that word out to them. I had a couple kids emailing me questions. I emailed them the link and said, get this word out to your friends. And before I knew it, I'm pretty sure all my kids know. Like they're all talking, they're all communicating. So it's kind of getting that communication for us into a centralized location. So, you know, I can see that interaction too, and I can have that interaction and they can interact with each other.
Absolutely. So Lisa's comment that I did want to note, I love when Lisa joins into our lives all the time. It just seems like it's not officially a live unless Lisa's here, and she is here. So don't worry, people. We're official in our daily drop-in this morning. Thank you, Lisa. She posted, hey, Ray, it's Lisa. Always nice to see you. Do you think someday you could host an opportunity for people to share what digital sites they are using now and how they're being used, especially now with so many free offers? So Lisa, I think my initial answer is yes. I think that that's really important that we do. She's gotten a lot of likes and heart off that comment because I think it further emphasizes the need for us to come together and be collaborative versus us like saying, oh, there's so many opportunities, let's all explore them individually. How can we kind of create that that mastermind of what is going on? So I kind of want to touch on two different things, and then it looks like we're going to add a third to ensure that we're supporting Lisa. One, Megan, is the project that I know I'm going to totally out you, is the thing that you're working on. Because Megan came to the team and was like, hey, I have this idea where you're working on an opportunity just to give teachers really quick food for thought on how to use Flipgrid. So I know that I'm going to spill all the beans, but you know, like how to log in and a few quick ways to use it just to give people a starting point, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And then I came to you and was like, hey, could you do that for like 13 other things as well? And of course, you being the passionate, supportive educator you are, you're like, yep, I'll finish that ASAP.
So, like you said, like Lisa said, there's so many apps out there that are free right now. And so I think people are like, okay, let's try this. If, you know, we're all about offering the support. So if there's a program that I use and I can say, hey, here's a quick video of how to start using it, and here's how I use it. If it's going to help people, show you how to use an app that's going to, you know, be beneficial to your classroom right now, great.
And I think that's great because I know that you're doing it in a way that's trying to make it simple, easy to process. Here's the tool. Here's how you could use it, although there's probably thousands of other ways as well. And then here's just how to log in, because sometimes that's tricky. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of also modeled a very similar philosophy in the course that we've been referring to at teachbetter.com, which is on supporting a virtual classroom. We essentially provided you not only video support, food for thought on a virtual classroom, but there's a packet that you can download, and that packet gives you 2 or 3 pages of, are you looking for this? Here's 5 tech tools you can consider. So it includes like, are you trying to find a tool to disperse the information to your students? Here's 5 or 6 to consider. Are you looking for a tool to formative assess your students' understanding? Here's 5 or 6 to consider. And the answer is there's really 300 you could consider, but here's like a few that you could dabble with to initially start. And my joke yesterday in our daily drop-in was, if you don't like any of those, simply find one in Google, apps that are similar to, and you'll find 30 others that are also options for you and your students. So I think that those two avenues right now that are both accessible, one will be accessible at teachbetter.com and the others in our academy, is a way for people to kind of get started in finding the right tool to support what they're trying to achieve, which is really how you should be approaching tech tools. It's not about, oh, Nearpod's free, I should go use it, but more so I'm trying to find a tech tool that supports, students exploring new curriculum in a digital format, therefore I'm going to use Nearpod. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important. Not every tech tool is going to work for everyone, and it's not going to work in everybody's classroom. Everybody has their different likes and dislikes. I have so many people within my building that are like, oh, I love this and I love this. You and I had that conversation yesterday about one of the tech tools, just that, it was something that we had tried. We didn't totally love it, so it's not something that we really implement in our classroom, but I know there's so many other educators that absolutely love it. So I think it's, like you said, it's finding what you really like and what works for you, not just using it because it's free.
Well, and I think, Megan, that transitions perfectly to then Lisa's comment, because our conversation yesterday, which I know, again, I'm sorry, we're referring to a conversation that we didn't have live, like Megan and I got together in a Google Hangout, but I learned how somebody else was using the tech tool we were referring to, and I was kind of like, oh, wait, I didn't use it that way. Maybe I should consider it again, because it looked like this teacher found a different creative way to allow it to support her classroom. And so to Lisa's point, trying to find a way for us to kind of all come together and maybe share what we're doing, how we're using it, and kind of ideas, food for thought, I think is really valuable. So maybe we need to do something in our group, or even outside of our group, to kind of share some of these experiences to a larger network. I know there's already been a lot shared right now. I've been I feel like inundated with Google Sheets and websites that are putting together the offers of all these free tech companies handing things out. But I think also creating a space for maybe teachers to reflect and review how they're using it might be valuable to our network.
Absolutely. I think that especially now with the amount of educators that we have in this group, there are so many educators that have either already been using these tech tools prior and they use them all the time, or, have in the last few days maybe have really started using them and really kind of dove in with them. So I think it's so important now. We have so many people that are experts in so many different areas. So to put that all together and offer all of that support, I think would be amazing.
So if it's okay, Megan, I want to challenge Joe a little bit. And I love, Joe, you're like, I feel like I consider you a great friend. So I think it's important to address his comment, because I 100% agree with him, but there's some discussion I think we could have. So can I read this comment to you real quick?
Absolutely.
By the way, I'm going to mention this is the perfect time right now. If you are listening to our conversation right now on Teach Better Talk podcast, where we are posting all of our daily drop-in audios after our recording, or if you are watching this on YouTube and you're subscribed and you're just seeing these videos after, if you too want to make sure that you're commenting and actively a part of this conversation, you should absolutely come join our private Facebook group over at teachbettergroup.com to actually be a part of this discussion, because I think that us coming together and being active in this, I like you said that, this teacher lounge of daily morning drop-in, we really do want you a part of this. So Joe, I'm so glad that you posted this. Joe says, I love that ed tech companies are offering free trials, but I would like for companies to offer more than the light version. I understand at the end of the day, they are a company and need to make money, but sometimes using something for 90 days doesn't provide enough feedback for students and teachers. And so I think that is really important, because there are so many teachers that are dabbling with new tools, but what do we do when these tools go away? Or what do we do when we don't feel like we've had enough time with these tools to see if they're beneficial? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I've done that even like prior to this, when I've done a free trial of something. It's okay, 30-day free trial, 60-day free trial. I feel like at times I'm like, okay, I have 30 days, or I have 60 days to figure out if I love this or I don't like it. And if I only have 30 days, how often do I need my students using it to be able to kind of see all aspects and determine truly whether I like it or not? So I think that it's a really great point. And that was already something that I feel like was challenging. And especially now when there's so many that are free, which is incredible. But I think that is still obviously a really great point. How do we deal with that? I don't, yeah, and I don't know that I have the answer, because I find, just with things that I use in my classroom, I like feel like I'm on a time crunch to figure out, do I like this? Do I not like this? Does it work? Does it not work? Would we want to pay for it? Is that an option? There's so many what ifs.
And I think it goes well, and I know we haven't really addressed it, but it goes well with Veronica's comment just a few minutes later. She says, I think it might be challenging for students to use new technology, so I'm being cautious about adding more tech all at once. I'm staying with what I'm currently using and then only adding one other easy one, and she references vocabulary specifically. And I think it's important that we talk about this because there's a double-edged sword here. One is we're trying tools that we could fall in love with but are only going to be free for a short period of time, maybe. And the other is we can't use everything all at once, because we have to remember that while we're spending 8 hours a day exploring like the innovation of education, the reality is that we could be delivering these instructions to a student who isn't in a space to take on new technology, who's acting as a parent at home. I mean, this brings up not only the conversation of equity, but also the conversation of, students feeling overwhelmed and maybe not having the support to actually dive into the things that we're offering them. And these are two very different but very important conversations for us to have about, the technology access in our classrooms. And I do want to add to Joe specifically, I completely agree that it's unfortunate that these tech companies are offering so much and it's only going to be for maybe a short period of time, or how long is enough time to evaluate a tool. But if I can say, like, everybody's got to pay their bills, and the only way for these companies to have enough staff to support our students in being successful on these platforms, like, companies have to exist. And there are so many people right now not getting paid, or because of the shutdown that's going on in our country. There's some people right now that are struggling with money. I don't mean to open the floodgates, but that's actually the concern of the Teach Better team. We talk all the time about how can we give as much away for free while also keeping a team so that we can support the people who are a part of our family. And I just kind of want to offer maybe the food for thought of, the only way that tech companies, schools, and anything in between can stay open to support students is by having some sort of income to pay the staff to make that happen. And while it's a challenging conversation, I don't like talking about money, but we do need to maybe have a deep conversation on how eventually long term we can find the financial support to use these amazing tech tools. Maybe we just need to kind of take it for right now and say, yes, I don't know how this is going to be sustainable long term, but isn't it such a blessing that these tech tools are offering some way for me to be successful by offering a free trial, because I don't know as the teacher what this is going to look like. And it's so sweet that these tech companies are coming out and saying, hey, we don't know how we can sustain this long term, but maybe this tool will be helpful for you right now while we go through this crisis in our country. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think it's so, like you said, it's a blessing that we're able to, again, while so many of us have kind of been turned upside down in a sense by, here, we're going to change everything that you're really used to and you're going to teach from a distance. I think it's such a blessing to have so many tools available right now. And I think also, to kind of go back to what I said about how, I feel like I sometimes have such a short amount of time to figure out if something is worth it. I think, though, that I then look at that tech tool a lot different than I would if I knew it was free for a long period of time. I'm really trying to dive into, is this really what I want for my students? Is this really the learning that I want? Is it the practice that I want? So is it hitting their standards? Is it meeting their needs? I think that I look at that so much more closely because I'm trying to determine if it's something I would use moving forward.
So I want to comment on, I think that was a really good point, Megan. Like having the lens of the situation we're in is really important, because I think that we just need to be as grateful and open-minded, as reflective as possible, to then determine long-term how this actually looks for us. But I think that having that lens is so important. There's a comment that, I'm sorry, I can't find it on my phone, but I'm seeing it here on our screen. So I'm just going to read it here, but I'm sorry, I don't know who posted it. It says, my high school students are too inappropriate for Flipgrid, and their laptop camera don't always work. I know I can pre-approve their video, but I have a challenging group this year, maybe another year. And I think it's important to comment on this. It's something that we alluded to before, but Megan, I'd really like to hear your perspective, because you and I have not discussed this. As teachers, we right now feel like we've had a very short amount of time, or at least I feel like I have a very short amount of time to figure out distance learning, virtual learning, e-learning. I don't care what vocab word you're using, and its implementation. So it seems like teachers are processing still, they're problem solving still, they're having discussions like we're having right now around how to incorporate this. But this is kind of something that we are consistently chewing on. How do we incorporate best practice into these settings? On the flip side, we need to kind of give our students that same permission to chew on these ideas and learn how to act in this setting. And so just as in the beginning of the year, we teach our students procedures of our classroom, it is so important. And when I say so important, I mean so important, that we spend the first few moments of e-learning, distance learning opportunities to teach our students how to act in that type of setting. Because I don't know that that should be assumed that we know that. I mean, I was working with the district last week about how we need to have a discussion on what's an appropriate dress code, because the dress code should still apply even though you're sitting at home. But I fall into the category this morning. As I was getting dressed, I'm like, do I need to like throw on a nice shirt? Like, can't I just wear a hoodie? Do I need a shower? Because you don't really feel like you're at work because you're at home. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I think you said it perfectly. I think just because two things. First, we are distance learning, whatever you want to call it. And as hard as that changes for us, the same thing is going on with our kids. Their world has essentially also been turned upside down. And I don't think that they know what to do or what's going to happen. They know what we know.
Or less.
Or less. It's very unsure. And I think on the flip side of that is just because we're distance learning doesn't mean you take out all of the things that were going on in your classroom already. And I don't want to say problems or issues, but I have a challenging group this year. That's how it is. And I love them and I miss them already. But I already know that with that challenging group, I think that as I'm rolling this out to my students, I almost need to offer more support in this sense, because we haven't done this before. And as much as I haven't done it, they haven't done it. And one of the things that I actually thought of, and it came from a comment up above and now this too, whether you're introducing new tech tools, Flipgrid isn't something that we use daily in my classroom, so that was a little bit newer. I think it's so important to have us be the first ones that are reaching out to them, whether it's recording a video. Here's how you use this tech tool. Here are my expectations. We might not be in the classroom and I might not be, 2 feet away from you, but here is what I expect. If, I've talked about, I would like to get on a Zoom with my kids and offer, kind of like office hours and support. Well, before I do that, there's going to be a video going out. These are my expectations, X, Y, and Z. It's a little bit more difficult because I do feel like you don't have maybe the consequences that are in place in school. But one of the things that I had just thought about, and this is just totally something that I do in my classroom, all of my kids have a virtual bank account. So I'm going to continue to pay them. They get weekly paychecks for working. I'm going to continue to pay them as they work. But that's going to be something that I can also kind of use as a consequence if I need to.
Mhm.
if they are doing things. So I think it's now time to be a little bit more creative with how we support, how we how we hold them to those expectations. It's high expectations in my classroom. It's going to be the same outside of my classroom.
It's funny. I was watching our daily drop in on Monday with Chad and Jeff, and I heard Chad say something along the lines of the fact that like there's a blessing right now. We don't really have to deal with all the classroom management that we had to before. And to be honest, I would have loved to be on live a video with him and challenge him on that idea, because while it's not the same, I actually think we have more classroom management that we're going to have to deal with virtually, because it's not only something that we may not be experts in as educators, but also we need to kind of go back to where we started, at the beginning of the year, even early in our career, and find out what procedures do I want to put in place to support our students with not only these new educational learning environments that we're offering, but the tools we're using. But the real thing I want to make sure is said with this comment that we initially read is your students are going to hit the expectation mark that you offer to students. So if your expectations are that they can't do it, then they will not be able to, and that's the expectation you've set. Whereas if you set an extremely high expectation that say like, this is where I expect you to be, and I'm going to provide you the scaffolding to reach there, all students are going to need different supports to get there, but they will be able to hit that expectation. So if we're walking in saying, my students are too young, they're not going to be able to do this, that's fine. But then just know that that is the reality. That's true. They won't be able to. Whereas I work with 10 and 11-year-olds all day, and they are fully capable of doing this. I've seen them do it successfully, and I've given them support to ensure that they can. And so I would argue that whether you're dealing with kindergartners, first graders, fifth graders, sixth graders, or high school students, depending on where your expectation level is really going to be where your management stops. And so if you set that bar really high, that management is going to allow your students to feel supported to reach that. But you're right that if we're not in a place where we're like, man, they won't be able to do this, then just know that they won't. And that is something that you're going to need to then find a solution for. I feel like I'm talking in circles, but does that make sense?
Definitely. And I want to touch on something you said too about when you said scaffolding. I think it's also important to know that if you're like, let's say you're trying Flipgrid, I think we're all trying, something new at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to throw it all in and like jump in at one time. That's not what we're saying. It's okay to take baby steps when you're introducing them to something new, especially if it's something completely, distance learning is completely new to all of us, but especially if it's a tool that's completely new, it's okay to take baby steps. But I think if you never try to put them at that level, like you said, then that's where they're going to stay. They're going to live at that level that you expect them at. So it's okay to take it slow, but I think, you kind of got to push them to that level or it's going to stay. And then what do you do long term if this does end up long term?
So, and then I think that like your first Flipgrid, we're talking about Flipgrid, but this could apply to any tech tool. But maybe the first post is share something that you, like, I don't know, something along the lines of like, share something that's easy for them to share, have them reiterate the expectations in their own words, go throughout an easy activity where they have to interact with each other, but maybe it's in like a very kind way, like they have to share a compliment to a friend, and then you start getting into content. So you've been able to model, give feedback, have them be the teachers by articulating what they understand, model, give feedback, and then, okay, now let's talk content. Because you really need to give them the opportunity to see positive examples, receive feedback from you and their peers, teach somebody else how to do something, and then move forward. And I think that then knowing, because I know teachers are like kind of like staying away from this, but what are the consequences, right? Are the consequences phone calls home? Is there some support that your school has put in place? These are the hard conversations that you do need to have, because as the educator, you do need a plan for A and B. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think two things, going back to Flipgrid really quickly. And again, just because we're talking in a sense of Flipgrid, I know there's a lot of other tools, but it was mentioned in the comment, you can have it set so that you have to approve things. I have 95 kids. So I 100% understand what that would look like if I was approving everything. But even if that's step one, if for a week you're approving and then you kind of move to that might give you that leeway to deal with anything that comes up in that week.
Yep.
And then those students see the expectation and they know, like you said, consequence, which I think brings that up. It's funny, I think like I'm out of my classroom. That doesn't mean I can't call a parent. That doesn't mean I can't email a parent. I might be at home, but I can still call home on you while you're home. I mean, it's, that's still a thing. You can still do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know if you're listening right now to the Teach Better Talk podcast after this recording, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget you can participate in these conversations. You can add your ideas and contribute your questions simply by joining our Facebook group over at teachbettergroup.com. We'd love to have you adding your insight, your questions to these conversations. I do, Megan, think it's interesting. I want to read the comment that was just posted because I think this is something that I've had conversations about yesterday at length. And it says, I do worry about my IEP students who absolutely need support to complete their work. And if they get it without me, and if they will get it without me, but I'm going to push them and I'm reaching out as much as possible to parents so they know it's okay to ask me for help, even if they think it makes them look silly. So, I don't want to get on my soapbox here. I'm going to try and kind of divvy this out. I think this comment addresses like 3 different things that we have to talk about. One is there are a lot of different communication elements coming regarding IEP students and the support that they need, the supports that are required, all those elements. And so I really encourage you to pay attention to what the Board of Education is doing at your state, because there's different expectations going out at the moment. A lot of states haven't necessarily claimed a stance yet. And so that's important. Just at the top level, educators, keep an eye on what your Board of Education is saying. The second thing is your IEP students that need support, that really goes with any of your students in your classroom that need support. I think it's important to know 2 things. One is districts need to provide educators an understanding of what their responsibility is. And so whether that be the amount of time that students need engagement and or permission to not get into new content right off the bat. I would really say that in this stressful time, Megan, I'm sure the interaction you've had with students, you're seeing the same. Start with review activities. And if your district is saying that that's not appropriate, then I would love to reach out and let's brainstorm and talk through this. But it is truly my opinion, and I'm saying it's my opinion, you should not be introducing new content right off the bat if you don't have a classroom that's conducive to all these changes being easy for students. Because students right now have so many things changing. There's so many elements, again, back to equity that we're struggling with right now, that you can be offering support for students to keep their mind active without giving them really challenging work that they need to be completing. Do you agree with that, Megan?
Absolutely. I think it, and like you said, I think that touching on like the IEP students, but really, I think of like so many of my students that struggle. And I think that and I know that if I overwhelm in an already overwhelming situation, if I overwhelm them now, and this ends up, for however long this goes on, I'm going to lose them now. And that's not going to pan out for the rest of however long we're in this. And I think one of the things, it was actually really fun. So again, we found out on Friday at like 1:00, my kids leave at 2:45, that we were not going to be there for 2 weeks. And some of my kids panicked. We are like a week and a half away from being done with our unit. It's our most difficult unit. My kids were like, we can't do this without you. I don't know how to do this. I have so many questions. So I think for me, like my kids have been continuing to just kind of finish up and wrap up this unit this week, if they wanted to. Sure. And I know one of the sports that I put in place is I record lessons. I went back and recorded like much more in-depth lessons. I've been answering a lot of questions. I've been sending video responses via email to like help them hear. So I think knowing and offering the support, even non-content related. Like I've just been checking in with my kids. That is so important for them to know that that's theirs, so that when you do if you have to start diving into your content, new content, challenging content, if they already feel that support, that's going to take that stress away. Because in my class,
Well,
I stress out.
that goes back to going back to the basics, build relationships, set up procedures, right? I mean, that's what you're saying, is that you're showing your students that you're there and you're continuing to foster that relationship you've built.
Yeah, you can't, it does kind of feel as though those relationships have been not cut off, but I can see how from a kid's standpoint, they now don't have that interaction, and it could feel like that relationship came to a screeching halt, and you don't want them to feel that way. So figure out ways to build that relationship in distance learning. There are a lot of ways. And if a kid doesn't have technology, I have that. I have students that don't have that in my district. So, write them a letter, call home, something that lets them know that you are there and that relationship is continuing. We say it all the time at the beginning of the year. If you build the relationship, that's going to pay off all year. Same thing now. If you make sure that they know that that relationship and that effort and that care and support is still there, that's going to pay off for however long we're in this situation.
Absolutely true. The other thing I want to address, and I'm sorry, I do want to say we've been live for a little over an hour, so I appreciate that all of you are still here with us, still engaging. I hope this is helpful discussion for all of you. Megan and I can talk forever, so this is just who we are as people. I hope that you guys are feeling supported. But the last part of this comment, Megan, I think is at least important to address, is the idea of supporting parents, that parents are now being put in a situation where many of them are still working. Many of them have multiple children at home, and now they are feeling this anxiety, this stress to be to support their children in a variety of different ways. You don't even need to necessarily say all of them. But the comment literally says, the parents ask me for help, even if it makes them look silly. And I think that that's adds another layer of our discussion, just the idea that we as teachers are working right now to support obviously all of our own colleagues. We're also in a point right now where we're looking to support all of our students. And the reality is that we really do have a responsibility to support all of our stakeholders. And that puts a lot of pressure on us, but that's why this group exists, for us to give as much support as possible to each other, so that we're able then to fill up the buckets of others, because our parents are dealing with a lot. I mean, I can only imagine, I don't have children myself, but I can only imagine doing work full time, being a parent full time, and dealing with the stress of just what's going on in the world, and trying to do this. So I think that there does need to be even more support for our parents to reaffirm that, yes, stress is understandable. It's completely an appropriate feeling to have right now, but I am an ally for you. I'm here to help you. So I'm going to brainstorm all the things I can do as an educator to give you the tools in your tool belt that I've been collecting throughout my entire career to support your child.
Absolutely. I think it's so important not to, especially now with, what we're dealing with, I think it's so important not to miss that layer. Mm-hmm. We have, like you said, we have our district and our colleagues. There's a lot of people, or, in this group, educators supporting educators. We are supporting our students. But it's important not to miss that layer, because that's going to be such an important layer now for, numerous reasons. And, I teach middle school math. I'm helpful in math, and other subjects are questionable. So I totally understand, like, as a parent, if they're like, I don't know how to do this math. I hear that all the time anyways when they bring it home, and then they come back to me the next day. Mm-hmm. Now they're not doing that. So now it's, putting those supports, or at least just letting the parents know that you are here to support when they need it. I think it's huge, and it will help this process be even smoother.
So one kind of idea to kind of wrap up this discussion of parents, which of course, by the way, we can continue if any of you listening want to continue this, or on any of our other daily drop-ins that happen every single morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. We are more than happy to give you more strategies in terms of ideas to support parents, because we actually haven't, I don't believe, in the first 3 daily drop-ins really had an in-depth discussion on parents. But Megan, do you want to touch a little bit, or I can, on sending video emails to families. Do you do that in your classroom at all?
I actually don't at the beginning of the year. It's definitely something I will do now. At the beginning of the year, I do make a couple of videos available just to kind of explain how my classroom runs because I do use the grid. So I know it's very, very different. But I don't on a daily basis or weekly basis, but that's absolutely something that I'm going to be doing now because I think it's important that they hear from me and see me and know that, I am here for that support.
So if you have read the Teach Better book available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or if you are somebody who's visited our blogs, which by the way, you should absolutely do at teachbetter.com, we have a number of different blogs on this idea that I love. I talk about it all the time, and I steal the idea from Tiffany Ott because about 3 years ago, it seems like her and I were on a video chat very similar to this on Facebook, and she brought this idea up, and it really did change my communication style with parents and my students. But we were talking about how in an email, things can get misunderstood in terms of tone in your writing, but it's also a lot for a parent to sit down and read a email that's maybe multiple paragraphs communicating multiple things. And so it becomes more of a stressor. It's easy to delete, kind of all those elements versus being able to communicate with parents via video gives them the opportunity to see you, see your excitement, hear your tone, and possibly get more information in easier medium for them. I always joke that when I send my families a video email, they can hit play, put it on the counter, be holding a baby and be cooking dinner while listening to my update. And it's a very different format because I think that it allows you as the educator to still build a relationship with your parents, even though you're not directly talking to them in that moment. And so what I do, and I like I said, there's a lot of different pieces that we have talked about this on the team if you want to know in-depth details. But I really encourage you, record a quick video on your phone or on your computer, sharing a few quick updates to families, sharing that you care about them, that you miss them, and upload it to YouTube or upload it to Drive. Take that link and then throw it in an email. So my emails truly are a hello to families, a positive thing that I want them to know, like that I miss them or, something like that, like a quick tidbit that's positive. I include the link saying that I gave them an update via video. And then after that, I include the 3 takeaways I want them to get from that video, which could be 3 tidbits of information. It could be that I miss them, that I'm here to support them, and then something else, whatever. And then I conclude it with sincerely, Miss Hewart. And so with that being said, if they don't want to watch the video, the email is like 4 sentences, so it's very quick to read. And if they do click on the video, then they have a 3 to 5 minute clip of me sharing my excitement, sharing my appreciation, and continuously showing them that I am there to support them. And I think this is a big part of allowing parents to feel supported and that we are there to help them because we're able to kind of give them that video avenue of us reaching out. So I know we talk about it a lot, but it's just something quick that you could do to make your parents feel confident in the process.
Absolutely. And I know somebody just commented on parents may be helping multiple children in multiple grades, and it's very overwhelming. And I think everyone is so overwhelmed. And I totally agree. When you're a parent and you're trying to keep some sort of routine now for your kids, but you've got multiple kids in multiple grade levels, it's overwhelming. So I think that, like you said, just reaching out to your parents, and even if it's a quick, we're here for support. Just because we're not in the classroom every day, we are here to be supportive. It's going to be okay, and we're going to figure this out. Sometimes I think that hearing that is so helpful. I know, like, when this all happens, like, I need to hear that. I need to know, like, we're all in the same boat. And I think, we have this incredible group of educators to be able to discuss these things with. And, parents may not have that. And if they're struggling, I think that just a quick video can be extremely helpful.
Well, Megan, it has been amazing being live with you for our daily drop-in. We have been live for 1 hour and 10 minutes. There has been so much activity. We so appreciate all the educators that popped in to be an active part of our conversation. And we appreciate all of you listening, whether it be on Teach Better Talk podcast, where we're publishing these daily drop-ins as bonus episodes, or you're streaming from our YouTube channel or following on a different platform. We really want these to be a safe space to have good, deep discussion around the relevant topics that we have as we continue to get changing information seemingly every hour. We just want you to feel supported. The team really is dedicated to being an avenue, a one-stop shop to you finding the right solutions for your students to ensure that this is a successful process and you have kind of your teacher's lounge to get information and talk through your ideas and what you need. So Megan, I'm so thrilled that you joined me this morning. I think that we truly could talk for another 2 hours on these ideas. And I just feel like I love the comments that we're getting right now that people feel like they got great value. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that as we continue to brainstorm, you guys continue to pop in for our daily drop-in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern over in our private group, because we're going to continue to be here all day, every day to make sure that you are getting through and we are supporting students to the best of our ability. So Megan, I really appreciate it.
Tonight we have teaching on an island, right?
Yes, tonight we have our Teaching on the Island PD series in this group at 7 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. These are both PM times, where I'm going to be live with Jennifer Apple to talk about, it's a really good, it's like literally the perfect title. Hold on. Do you know?
No, I can't.
Oh, Feeling Stranded. That's what it is. Feeling Stranded.
Perfect.
Which I think we're all feeling.
Absolutely.
So Jennifer Apple is located in Washington State. She is a tech coach. She's a part of the Teach Better team. She has a lot of insight. And so her and I will be live this evening to talk through that. And then additionally, Megan, Dave Schmitto and I are going to be live tomorrow morning for our daily drop-in. And he's an administrator in Michigan who I know is an active participant today in our conversation. So I know he'll have a lot of insight to provide as well. So our team is here to support you, and we hope you continue to tune in and get as much value as possible. So thank you for all that you do, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
See ya.